you're here for thin client computing and law labs, you're in the right place. We're from Ohio Northern University, Pettit College of Law. My name is Larry, and this is Jay. I'm actually in charge of the tech support for the law school itself, and Jay works as a systems administrator with the university. So a lot of our systems are handled through the university, which turns out to be kind of an advantage when it comes to paying for this kind of stuff. We promised also to keep it short and simple so that we can get into some discussion and some questionings. But we did make it really simple for those folks that are here that that maybe don't know what even a terminal server is. So, but I promise we're not going to spend a lot of time explaining what a terminal server is. What happened with us was about a year ago, we were in a lab that had like 30 computers in it, and the law school decided to remodel, so we had to give up this area and go into an area that was about half the size, and we started looking for a way to use little teeny boxes so that we could get into the space that we had. So this whole idea blossomed from that, and we soon discovered all the other advantages of thin client computing. Things we had to think about were that small space, and then the fact that we had laptops in the law school. Every student, probably I'm sure here too, or at your schools, have laptops. So we wanted to know that that was going to continue, and what could we offer to serve them when actually they already have a computer, generally at their beck and call. And of course then the green technology was just beginning to be really popular then, and save some power, save some money, cost savings, budget constraints. We've all been through that for the past year. So all these things came into play with our decision to get little boxes for our space. So then we decided, okay, where are we going to go from here? How are we going to deal with this? What do we do? And it just so happened that our 4-year cycle for computer replacement was last summer also, at the same time we were moving. So we had to replace the computers, and we made the decision whether we were going to replace the computers with other computers or were we going to get into this. And that's when I began talking with Jay about this possibility of thin clients. And he turns out he was looking at the same thing on the university-wide scale, and the university had already bought some equipment, and we were able to work with him and saved a lot of money. I already had some kiosks, some thin clients running terminals to access the library's website for searching. We call it Polar at our school. I was using those off of a small server, and they were working really well. I've had them up for 2 years. So I thought, well, how could we do this in a lab on a large scale? And of course, we decided to go with the thin clients because it's the small box that we were looking for. And a thin client, if you don't know, is a small box that has no hard drive, very small power supply. The ones we chose look something like this. They're a WISE terminal, WISE thin client. Another picture to give you a perspective on the actual size of the thing sitting in our lab there. And then we had to figure out how to make it work. So we were considering a dedicated server, a terminal server, just a single computer to run all of these thin clients off of. A terminal server will create multiple user sessions. I told you it was going to be kind of simple. So that you can connect multiple thin clients to one computer through the remote desktop connection, RDC. And then our other choice was to use the existing software, and we had some Dell chassis that Jay had been putting in and was developing. The Dell chassis have blades. This is what slides into those slots. Told you it's pretty simple. Some of you guys is like, we're trying to cover everyone here today.
The one he showed was a half-height blade. You can get full size, but those are half height and 32 gigs.
And we went with the VMware because Jay had been working with the VMware for a few months, I think a year even before I came to you. Used the Dell blade chassis with the M600 blade. It was going to cost us about 10 grand to go that route. To go with a blade, it was only going to cost us 6 grand due to the fact that the university had already bought the Dell chassis, and all we had to do was piggyback on and pay for a part of a blade. So that was a no-brainer. We were saving money there. So then we began to put it all together. We created a Windows 2003 terminal server virtual machine. We installed all the software that is necessary for us, probably about the same for you guys, Microsoft Office, Adobe, be able to connect to the internet so students can research. We needed to be able to print, all kinds of basic things that you just assume that just happen, that you have to really think about when you're doing this. So we tested all that, and it all worked. We actually compared the performance of a thin client with a PC connected to the same thing, and it turned out that the thin clients actually ran faster than the PCs did. So then we went ahead and purchased and installed the thin clients, and this is a picture of the lab portion of it. We have 16 stations, and how's it working? Well, the good things are that it's faster. It was really amazing. We kind of expected it maybe to be a little slower, but it turns out that they actually perform better, and they just work. I used to have to deal with the blue screens, on one computer or another almost daily, and the boot loops for XP and malware. And I have not had to deal with any of those three issues in the past year. These things just sit there and they work. The only problem I've had is one of them began to fail with its video output. So we just pulled it out, put another one in. It takes a minute, maybe 2 minutes to type in everything you need, point it to the server, and then it runs. It just goes. Obviously, cost savings were a good thing. Initially up front, if you have something you can use that's already there, you're obviously going to save more. If not, it's going to cost a little bit in the beginning to purchase the chassis, the blade, or however you decide to go about it. But the power consumption is a lot less. You don't have a power supply with fans in every unit. You actually just use the power supply you're already using off of a server, and then you have the small power supplies for each terminal. I think they were like, what, 6 watts?
Yeah, 6 watts.
Cost of replacement is a lot cheaper. We were on the 4-year cycle with the computers, so every 4 years we replace that many computers at whatever price it is at that time, $1,000 or whatever. These are like $300. So at that time, it was replace 16 computers for $16,000 or 16 of these at $300 a piece. So the cost of the hardware is a lot cheaper. The tech time, like I said, I haven't had to do hardly anything with these things for a year, so it's saved a lot there. Some of the issues that we've run across, we haven't yet, and this doesn't mean you can't do it, we just haven't done it yet because it hasn't been real important. We have not yet learned how to connect peripherals such as a scanner or a printer, other than a network printer. The network printing is no problem, but to connect a small printer like for doing resumes or whatever directly to the terminal, haven't quite figured that one out yet. Streaming video is poor when you're using RDC, so if you have to do any of that kind of stuff on your network or your school, you'll have to be sure to check on that. I think there's actually some development going on with that, and that may be taken care of.
Well, Wise has got some sort of add-on for the thin client that supposedly enhances RDC and gives it the ability to stream that piece of the screen faster than the rest of it. So I wouldn't hold my breath on that, actually.
We have a problem with converting documents to PDF format because the PDF, or the Adobe program, actually uses the print to convert a document over to PDF. So that's another thing we're working on right now. We I don't anticipate it to be too big of a problem, but I want to point out everything that we've run across so that you have an idea of what you could run into. Audio is not available. So the WISE terminals have an audio port, but the VMware does not support the audio. So,
Yeah, the VMware ESX server does not.
so we have that problem. It hasn't been a big deal yet because the students don't have too many things that they want to do in the lab setting that requires audio. Generally in the lab, they want to run in, check their email, work on a document that they've got to turn in a little bit and print. So it's probably about the same for your school too. All those things are, those needs are served, no problem. So let's talk. One thing that I wanted to try to do was just go ahead and connect to the server. Yes. So I've already established a VPN connection here at the school. So we are just running across the VPN. And we've connected now to that server in that amount of time. So I think the point I'm getting at here is, in the future, what we see is a possibility of setting up this server with everything on the screen the student needs. You know, the Lexus connection, Westlaw, Cali lessons, I think we have those up there, of course. But everything that the student would need would be there, so then all they have to do is connect to this through the RDC and from their own laptops. So we think, you know, that's one direction that this technology could be heading, and that's what we're working with. See how it connects to the browser from here. So it's working really well even from here. So questions? Joe?
On your VMware environment, you're obviously going to have the benefits of the high availability and all that kind of thing. But I know a lot of the folks here are talking about how their budgets can't afford a big VMware infrastructure, and if they're doing VMware at all, maybe they're doing the free ESX that you can get, which isn't as robust for the high availability. So what I was going to offer is that I've actually done a very similar thing to what you're doing in another environment, and I did it with standalone 2003 terminal servers, but use Microsoft Network Load Balancing, so that you end up with one service IP that all these clients will target. So if you do have a single system failure, if you do 2 or 3 physical servers in that network load balance cluster, then you don't have downtime if you have a single host go down. And Microsoft Network Load Balancing, you already have it if you have 2003. It's just another property in the configuration of your NIC in your operating system. And it's, if you've never done it before, it seems intimidating, but give yourself 30 minutes and read the manual. It's easy.
Yeah, we actually did network load balancing with Exchange front-end servers. Had one physical and one VM.
Yeah.
Until our network guy went into some of the network and it messed up.
Broke
Yeah, so we had to stop doing that. But yeah, that is an option here. There's, you know, I don't know if anybody, I think a few of you have attended the session yesterday for the virtual infrastructure. It was a real good intro to that. So, you know, if anybody needs any more details on that, we can probably get into it, otherwise we won't talk about it. But you have a lot of flexibility when it comes to, we've decided to go VMware, like that's where we're going to migrate to. Some stuff we're just not going to be able to do. Like initially, we're probably not going to do Exchange in the VM, however they say they support it, but initially we probably won't do that. But these terminal servers, this could be an option as well. Like you mentioned here with the network load balancing, that's a good option. That one of the things we could do for simplicity's sake is we could have built 2 VMs, you know, assign half of the thin clients to point at one server, the other half to go to the other, but you could do the load balance as well. We actually built our VM with a 64-bit OS initially because initially the idea was going to be to give him the whole thing, the whole 32 gigs, even in a VM, we were going to allocate the whole thing. Because I was like, well, I don't know how much resource he's actually going to need for these guys. And then when it finally came down to it, and I started testing it, I saw, wow, I could get, 16 RDC connections up, and it's, hardly skipping a beat at 3 gigs. So I said, I'll just give it 6 gig. And we've actually got 3 ESX servers in a cluster. So I think we've got, in that particular cluster, I think we've got 12 VMs total. So 3 M600s with 32 gigs of RAM hitting the sand, it's like not skipping a beat. So it's not even really an issue. So some of the things that he's having issues with are, we think it's like with 64-bit and some software compatibility issues. We just haven't really investigated actually going down to a 32-bit, just running at 4 gig. That's all it can take anyway.
Well, for example, a couple weeks ago, Microsoft updated us to Internet Explorer 8. So then our homepage has a lot of flash on it, and their flash just says, "You got to wait. We don't support 64-bit yet." So we had to take the 8 back off, go back to 7. So there are some issues with the 64-bit.
You probably did yourself a favor with that. We were talking about the printing thing. Have you investigated loading like Qt PDF, and it loads itself as a pretend printer, and then try to convert the documents that way instead of using Adobe? Because for us, this would be great, except our students they convert a lot of stuff to PDF because a lot of law firms and accepting resumes now only in PDF format. So that would be a deal breaker.
Would you call it?
Yeah.
QPDF?
Cute.
Oh, cute. Okay.
Doesn't it put
It's free.
something on the bottom of every page though on a cute PDF?
No.
It does?
It works
I
just
think
like Adobe.
you're thinking of Win2 PDF.
Okay.
There's another one. I mean, there are a ton of these search
Yeah.
source
Yeah.
boards, but PDF Creator is another one
And they're-
that I'm a fan of.
Is
and
it free too?
Yeah, it's also, it's free open source.
Yeah, I use that one on a terminal server too, so I know it works well on the terminal server.
The PDF Creator.
PDF Creator,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if QPDF would work or not, but it's a simple little thing. You just put your printer in there,
Yeah.
on your desktop to create PDFs, just like Adobe does.
We also, we use Microsoft Office 2007. There's a PDF converter there. It's an add-on. You gotta just say go ahead and do it. But it's not probably as easy as doing one of these other routes.
I was gonna ask what they're converting from, because like you mentioned, that and WordPerfect has been using PDF for.
Yeah, I don't understand why this stuff is so difficult, honestly. If they just make it that way, I think it's just marketing and money.
But it's an issue that.
Yeah.
I set our lab up and I have it for ranking, but I don't hear anything unless they can't print it, because that's the thing that they have to do.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't hear anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you, may have mentioned this earlier, do you allow students to connect to the terminal server via their own laptop?
We haven't yet.
They could,
Yes, they could.
but they don't. I guess if one person was to find out how to do it,
So
The
if they
cat
don't
would be
your
out.
IP, you're not locking it down to only a subnet for the lab.
right, I don't think I can't remember, it's been a year since we set it up, but that was a point that we said, should we do this? Do we want to allow them to do that? And I think we just said, no, let's just leave it and see what happens. And it hasn't really been an issue. Some of the things we did configure on it though was only one user session, some timeouts for disconnects, log off, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 20 minutes timeout.
And then log off some time after that.
You had mentioned that you don't have audio and that the streaming video hasn't working, or doesn't work well. Did you look at, when you were looking at your options, did you look at any that would support audio and other AV applications?
Kind of after the fact, really. Almost immediately after we got this thing implemented, it was in production, went and saw a Dell presentation with their streaming desktop product. And I was like, wow, that would be cool to try, because then you get the whole power of a desktop, but an image comes from one location, from a streaming server, down to basically a diskless PC. So then you'd have everything, the video, good graphics card, sound, processing, all that stuff.
There's Dell streaming desktop, is that?
Yeah, it's called Dell Streaming Desktop. It's like a small unit like this S10, but it's just got, everything else packed into it.
The Optiplex FX160 is the model of the box, and then you have a disc and a diskless version.
Yeah.
We're doing the diskless. I got a quote for the quantity of 10 of the diskless devices with the dual core Atom, 2 gigs of RAM, and the necessary licensing for that seat. And it was, I think, about $725 with our discount to the university for each device.
Right. Yeah, I think every Optiplex now has in the BIOS the ability to connect to a streaming service. It doesn't matter what you have. You can have a disk in it, but you can say, go get the image and don't worry about booting to the hard disk. So you don't have, anything that you get now probably has that built in. So what you'd have to do is build a streaming server. So probably Windows 2003 box that has their software on it that these things can connect to. I wanted to test it, but like I'm sure everybody here, the economic conditions kind of, hindered some things.
I was wondering about the audio, going back to the audio, is that a hard limit that, is that just something that is not possible?
It's not possible with the ESX server because it doesn't virtualize the sound. You could do like, if you have like a PowerEdge 2950, it has a sound card in it, and you put, say, VMware Server on it, you could probably do it. It just has to be able to virtualize that card, that sound card. And the ESX server, on our Blaze will have sound cards. It just doesn't support it. I don't know. I don't remember if they were talking about supporting something like that later in vSphere, the new one, or not. But it's, maybe someday they'll have some sort of emulator that they'll do that, but we're not aware of that right now. So that is definitely a limitation that we have. The video itself actually works, but its RDC is kind of choppy. The frame refresh rates are real slow.
The student thumb drives at the thin clients?
Work.
That's one of the things that works, yeah. And that's an RDC feature. That's a feature of RDC.
That was one of the things that had to work.
Yeah.
That was on our list of, we don't buy these if this doesn't happen.
And you can connect USB printers and parallel port printers to the thing. You can do that, but we actually have print accounting that we try to do for all the students. And we have 32-bit print servers with Print Limit Pro, I think it is. And because this was a 64-bit OS, we had trouble loading our 32-bit from our 32-bit print server. So we wound up just creating the print queues locally on this server, installing the Print Limit Pro software on here, and it just goes and connects back to the management software to do the accounting thing. So we, it was a workaround. Cost us extra $500 to load the software on there, but we worked around it. And that's what that is up there, actually. That's how we do the accounting. That way the students can see how much they're spending for printing.
We usually charge 4 cents a page, so I print it twice. 2 pages.
So, obviously you've got them connecting with their AD accounts, but are you doing anything with group policy to lock down their profiles that they get when they log in, to keep it really strict, or leave it kind of open?
We just put a limit on the size of the profile.
Yeah, I know where you're going with that. We generally don't try to do that. If it was just for me, I would do it. But other people don't really feel the same way I do, so we just kind of go with openness and then identify an issue and then do something about it. Pick away at it a little bit at a time. When we first created it, though, I was bringing all these things out with Larry, like, okay, we can do this, we can do that. And it's like, well, then, but he didn't know what they were going to need. So it's like, well, let's just open it up and we'll find out what we don't want to do later. There were some other issues too. We had to do something we had to craft something with cleaning out the profile with the, what was it, the cache? Remember I did the script to do to clear out the Firefox cache, stuff like that. There were some things we had to do. It's like in IE, there was, okay, like in a profile, in a group policy, you can control IE. There's a lot of stuff you can do there. You can't do anything with Firefox. So we had to go and, do some VB scripting and do some things like at log on, how to go in and whack any existing temporary file they had in there, something like that.
Yes, I'm ignorant of thin clients themselves, so do they store your server in Flash like in BIOS and then immediately go to that, or like basically when you turn them on, what does it do?
Basically, the thin client has a small amount of memory to store the settings that tell that thin client how to connect to the server.
And so it's limited, and so is it limited to would you have to upgrade the hardware to use other protocols other than RDC, or do you see what I'm saying?
No, you don't. You don't have to.
Oh, you do?
No.
It's built in with Citrix and RDP, and I think that's it. If there's another one, I can't remember what it was. I think that's it. Yeah.
Some of the thin client devices that are in the same kind of generation of product have built-in Cisco VPN client technology as well, so that if they're at a satellite location, you can have it put in, the group password and things for your VPN, and then when they boot up, they put their AD account in to authenticate on the VPN, and then they authenticate to the RDP connection or the Citrix session after that. So there are a lot of options, mostly all
You
around.
can do just about anything you want to do if you just investigate and make your list of requirements and things you want to do, and then look at what's available and talk with the folks. They were really helpful. They weren't just salespeople. And I called to research these things. So.
There was a, hold on a second. Does anybody here, have you investigated the VDI? The View now? The
I
virtual
started
desktop?
down that path, and then Dale derailed me
Okay.
for the disk streaming.
Oh,
So,
they did?
Yeah. They're like, oh, you need to
Yeah.
have this at your university. Here's a couple of free machines.
Yeah, that's actually an option that we investigated as well. It was going to cost a little bit more. There's a little bit more infrastructure involved with that. If anybody's not heard of that, it's VMware's virtual desktop infrastructure. It takes, what it does is it adds a little bit of extra value, and so you can create XP VMs and have them sitting, like we've got a terminal server, like I've got 12 servers in my cluster. I could have also 50 XP VMs, and then what you can do is with the thin client, you can actually tell it to point to this VMware VDI, a connection broker. It's like a gateway. You just say, point to this thing and get me a VM. Just get me an XP VM. And you can load up an XP box using RDC instead of a Windows server, terminal server. But we found that was going to cost us probably twice as much. And actually, at the time, I probably would have probably investigated the streaming as well. Dell solution instead of that.
Back to the gentleman's question about what exactly is a thin client. One way to tiptoe into this is you can look at some of the wise thin clients that actually have an OS on them, whether it's Windows CE or XP embedded, or in my case Linux. And so it could either connect to a terminal server or run a locally embedded copy of Firefox, for example. And so the nice thing about that is if you wanted to experiment, you could buy one or two, stick one in your career services office, and let's say nothing comes of your thin client initiative, you still have the thing boot to Firefox and have them use it as we use ours for students who come in via our reciprocity agreements. They can go browse Simplicity, look for job listings, just using the local Firefox. So sometimes that's a way to tiptoe in if you wind up finding that you don't want to use a terminal server. And they're not very expensive. That was, I think at the time, $250 or $300.
You know you can send it to you to try.
Yeah, that's actually.
Yeah, I think the thin client is pretty cool because if you can have have like a 19, 20-inch monitor. The thing could last forever. And all you gotta do is replace the actual, the thin client itself. You keep the keyboard, you keep the mouse. So it's fairly, it's fairly cost effective to get a thin client. But you gotta have robustness on the back end. Your server side has to be pretty good. So we invested in it. We purchased the sand last year, got the blade chassis and the blades, and that's the direction we're going to go. It's a high upfront cost, but we expect to gain from that in the future and have a lot more flexibility. For me, on a system administration side, the concept of virtualization is the only way to go. Because I can take and replace hardware and not have to worry about bringing down an application. I just move it to another piece of hardware and it's done. Instead of trying to build things out on new servers all the time. It's a pain.
And like one of the speakers pointed out yesterday, they run a ping test and shut one down, start the other one up, and you drop one ping. So things works.
The vMotion, one of the demonstrations I usually give for Dean types and VPs and that kind of thing is have a Windows Media Streaming server in the VMware cluster, and so I'll start a live stream of one of our courtroom footage videos or whatever, and then show them, have it move over, and then I'll show them that we can yank the power to one of the nodes, and then it doesn't interrupt because it's vMotion.
Right. Yeah. It's really nice. We've tried various. We got another guy in my group that he's trying like KVM. I think some guys did VirtualBox, some other open source called Zen, and I think we're gonna standardize on VMware. Ohio, the state of Ohio, has an agreement now with VMware. It's like a $120 million contract. So they're going out and trying to get all universities, K through 12. Trying to get everybody on VMware. It's great for VMware. It's a source of income for them, but I think it's a really good product. I've been using it for a while now, and I really like it. So, I keep using it.
And I'll reiterate an earlier comment that we have the advantage of the university's systems. If it was just the law school, this would be cost prohibitive.
In addition to the upfront cost of $6,000 for those ones, are you obligated to pay a certain amount every year for the maintenance?
He doesn't. we do. Yeah. Actually, the way we work it out now is because we've got all this stuff. If somebody says, "Hey, I need a server, I need to do this, do that," and we say, "Well, we charge them $2,000." It's just we just made some number up. It's $2,000. We'll give you a server.
More than that.
Well, yeah, for you. Basically, what we did was we made him pay for one of the blades. We bought two. We made him pay for another one, and but it was a lot less than what he was going to spend initially anyway. So everybody gained in the end on that. Everybody was happy with it. So.
And you might go ahead and answer what you do have to pay and make. I know you've got to pay to support.
Yeah, this was discussed in detail in that last session. Right now, it's about $700 per ESX server per year, approximately. So that is a recurring cost. Of course, the hardware, generally for the server, is 4-year cycle. But because we've got it in this, in the virtual infrastructure, it's not a big deal to think about a hardware change in 4 years when that comes, to swap the blade out and vMotion all the VMs off and then put them right back on the new machine. And I don't care how much it costs. For me, that's my time. That's valuable. It's really nice.
So if one of the units is going to fail in the future, you will pick up the tab?
No, probably not. No. Like you're talking about an ESX host, a blade. No, we would probably cover it. His initial cost was the $6,000. After that, we probably cover it.
So that will be covered by the central, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
essentially what this project was when we first started out 3 years ago, I bought a 2850 standalone rack mount server. I ran the starter version of VMware, standalone, that was it. I put like 10 or 12 VMs on it, which is still running today. And then we said, we want to go the next step, and that is get a SAN, get some blade chassis with some blades, and do the thing the way they designed it to be done in an enterprise environment. So he just helped defray a little bit of the cost, and I mean a little, because the rest of the stuff was a lot. So he just kicked it in. That made our IT director happy, and we were all happy because we get added one more resource to our cluster. And then after that, though, I have a feeling, unless they come to us with a ginormous project that is beyond the scope of what we want to do, that we're comfortable with, we're just going to cover it. Just pick it up and just charge them a little bit, whatever it is, whatever they decide they want to charge them, a couple grand here and there.
So how many other units or faculties in the university are using the similar setup in the lab?
Nobody.
Also, he's the only
He's
one.
it, yeah. He was a pilot project. We actually had Sun come in. We had who did we have? Sun come in. They tried to give us their spiel.
They wrote a whole book for us.
And yeah, they said they were going to come in and basically let us do it for nothing, and then that wasn't the case. So, yeah, college bus price did it. So.
But you know how it is. You see something you know can work, and then that motivates you. You get through it, you make it work, deal with the issues, and then share them.
I was just gonna say, I use the free VMware to just like print server
Yeah.
and a couple other things, like SSH server and stuff like that. Basically, I have another server, it's the same hardware, so I just wrote a script, goes on the private network, and just copies the images to the other jobs to the other machine.
Yeah.
So if it ever goes down, I just get it.
Right. Yeah.
It's cost effective.
Yeah, it is. You can really do it for cheap if you want. I don't mind spending a little bit of money to get the value that VMware offers. I just don't have the time to do certain things, so.
We have a small staff.
Yeah.
Are you looking at the
Go ahead.
No, it's just, my question is more philosophical. We've actually eliminated our biggest lab because of our laptop requirement program. So we have a small 12-seat lab, and I can limp along the hardwood for probably another year. The lab gets so little usage. It's really, I'm wondering what your students are doing in the lab that they're not doing with their laptops that would justify kind of, going this route. So my choices are, do I just eliminate the lab environment entirely, or do I decide that we're going to do it?
Our students are in the lab. They're in the library a lot. Mainly, I think, because we're in a small town and there's nothing else in the town. There's
So you
no
show
place.
movies on Friday night?
Pardon me?
Popcorn party?
They have movies every now and then, but it's a really small town, and they spend a lot of time there, and they all live within a few blocks of the university, and so it's like the university is their den, or their study room. They just walk across the street. So a lot of times they know those computers are there. It's simple for them just to run in and finish their paper there rather than lugging their laptop. So they'll use it, and they use it for email. They do a lot of work on there though with their documents, and they do a lot of printing. So the lab, I do believe that philosophically, that's the reason our lab is used a lot, is because of the small town environment.
We kind of have the same problem, so I chopped our lab down from like 20 stations to 13, and I kind of turned it into a staff training thing as well.
Exactly.
So I put a projector screen in there, and I put a projector in there, and I've turned all the computers to face the same way, so it can be utilized as a lab as well as a training facility. So that's just an idea.
That's basically why I haven't gotten rid of the lab at this point, because we use it
get away from a lab environment totally? I mean, that's kind of where you're headed, right?
Right, well, we have a laptop requirement program, and the students print wirelessly, so,
Mhm.
you know, I just don't see a lot of lab utilization
Mhm.
these days.
Well, that's kind of like, that's what we're seeing here. We went from a lab of 30 desktop, thick clients, down to 16, half the size, half the machine, So, we kind of did this for two things, to replace his lab, and the other one was, what if we wanted to provide a way for a student to have a desktop that they don't have to worry about it on their laptop, like say if the thing gets toasted and all their stuff is gone. Or what if we provided a way for them to connect to a university-sponsored environment that has all the software they need, they can store a nominal amount of data, and it would get backed up. It's in an infrastructure that is solid and enterprise class, and then they could access it from anywhere. We could give them VPN access, and they could do it from home over this holiday breaks and stuff like that.
As you can see here, I have a document on the desktop from my login, so that's actually sitting on the server within my profile.
We don't know if we're going to do that, though. It's just, we thought about it. Getting some,
For our students, we wrote a little script with Auto called Connection Manager. So basically, it'll authenticate them with the printers, and it'll run an SSH program and actually map them to their H drive, so they can actually back up their documents to their H drive. So if the laptop ever does crash, they can always go into the lab and log in.
Yeah.
That's just getting them to do it.
Yeah, that's
It's a trick.
what we tell them.
My lab just got converted to an office suite, and a good portion of the lab computers were farmed out to study carrels, and so it's dispersed, it's not centralized at the moment, but I do maintain computers for students for when their laptop's being repaired. I do have a laptop learner program, the supported laptop program, but I don't have I can't guarantee that I'll always have one in stock to loan out for a day or two while motherboard's coming here or something like that. So I do, at bare minimum, I maintain a small number of terminals for students to use because their laptop could be broken for 2 or 3 days, or hopefully, usually no longer, but sometimes repairs take longer than that. They need something. I mean, if they get hit during exam time, they're just crazy if they don't have access to a terminal.
Okay, one thing I found is that some of the older professors on faculty really like the terminal server. As one thing, they don't use multimedia type applications very heavily, and they love the fact that they can go home and see their same desktop from home, and you almost see a twinkle in their eye, like, this is amazing. How did you do that?
Right.
And even just being able to print something and come in and have it sitting on the printer seems magical to us.
Yeah.
We have a couple of professors that have laptops, and they took the laptops home and they just sit there. And they never use the laptop, they just come in and use this. We still give them the laptop.
Those who want to get rid of the computer lab, like it started because we were short of space, office space on the building, so we want to get rid of the lab completely. So then the dean came up with a solution, why don't we buy laptops? And what we did was, we have about 2 dozen laptops configured with an image. So anything, you reload the image and everything is up to date. Students can sign, it's barcoded and it's kept in the library. It's available only for short-term use. And that also could be made into a regular lab because like we have a couple of classrooms like this, you just have to bring in the network cable, plug it in, the university, like the campus ID, you log in, everything is there. So we achieve both, like we were able to solve the space problem at the same time, whenever we want, as long as the classroom is not occupied. We could use it as a lab. And also we should not completely remove the terminals in the faculty or lab. It is not only, we think that it's mainly for students, but there are a lot of practicing lawyers, judges, and so many people visit, and some of them might not bring a laptop. So they want to access the internet to search something. At least we should provide something. So in the future, we are trying to completely eliminate the presence of computers, at least have some laptops, they could hook it up onto the network port and get it activated.
Who maintains do your laptops get imaged regularly, or?
We do.
You do?
We do. We are also relatively new to, I don't know much about that one, but the central IT maintains the virtual servers and everything, and it's getting better and better. So we are using both resources. Ours, we have two IT people in our faculty, but there was a communications director who is supposed to, today is his last day. So we might have to pick up some of his duties, but we get a lot of help from the central IT. So those days, if we want to run a web server, we have to get something, set it up and everything. Now we make a call, they're very friendly, a web server is up in 2 minutes. And if you want to mess it up, they'll also give you a test server. You can practically practice everything and load it on the actual server. It's made it so easy, but as you said, you have to have a very good relationship with the central IT and local IT staff.
That's hard though, like when you're such a huge university.
Yeah. I think a good relationship with central IT is a rare thing for a lot of us here.
It's probably a size issue, isn't it? We've got like, what, 3,500 kids? D3 are pretty small. So.
We have 70,000.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like multiple departments now.
It's just too, there's so many separate colleges. And
What
some things we do,
from?
Arizona State.
Yeah, okay.
So some things we do keep in, but some stuff
Yeah.
we do, but
We just have a little over 300 law schools.
yeah, we have, but just the university is just so huge.
Right.
But it is about relationships, like you said, too. It's about
Mhm.
relationships with people, over that certain things. So that does work.
Back to the philosophical stuff, communications is key to anything.
It is, but our building's really old, so we have half duplex. Wiring in some of these offices, and trying to run some of this stuff, it's just like, are you kidding me with this?
Yeah.
So the director of the central IT might not be telling you, but he might be, when he goes for the budget meeting, he might say, oh, we are doing this one for the faculty, law. Law
Right.
schools are give us more money.
Right.
So
It could be.
indirectly,
I
the
don't
money
know.
will somehow share. So.
Right. I don't count the beans, so I don't care.
This isn't really student, but we've been toying with the idea of a lot of our staff really just use Word and the internet, so we've been kind of toying with thin planes with them. Is anybody
Mhm.
doing that? Yeah.
We're looking at, we're trying to get that rolled out this summer, and it will be on the VMware infrastructure. I am really interested in the audio and video part of this. Our staff, rightly or wrongly, have come to believe that that's actually a perk. It's something that they look forward to, is the ability to trade YouTube links around all day. And so I see that as actually a very serious thing, because unfortunately a lot of the budget contraction is landing on the staff. We will not be changing the kinds of computers we provide to faculty. And so if we can't deal with audio and video, regardless of whether we feel that this is directly job related, that seems a little unfair to the staff. And so that's something we're wrestling with right now.
And so my concern was that the staff would feel as though they were being treated differently, like we're being given this pretend computer instead of this, you know. You know what I mean?
No, I completely understand that, and that's why we're going very slowly. We're still having these discussions, and that's why I was hoping someone would say, "Oh, you just don't know how to do the audio." But the art and streaming desktop stuff from Dell is one possible way at it. But I mean, if we were working in a business, if we were working in a collections agency, for example, and there were 20 task workers, we wouldn't be having the discussion.
No.
It's just that traditionally in academia, this is perceived as a job benefit. That you have a full-blown, nice network connection and essentially unfettered access.
Right.
You know.
I think that I think you're going to have everything. You're going to have thick clients. Some people are just going to need it. You can have it the streaming one, that's fine. For like I think the lab would be good for that. And then these kiosk type devices are good because they're cheap. You put them anywhere. You don't care if they get stolen because there's nothing in it. You know.
We care a little.
Well, I don't know, it's like when staff get new computers, and it's a real morale booster, you know what I mean? If people are getting raises, or people are getting new monitors and new computer, it's like it's a big
Oh,
thing
yeah.
for them, so.
They like to come and ask, is it my year?
Yeah, absolutely is.
So this isn't directly about the Windows.
They want you to know it's there.
This isn't directly about the Windows terminal server, but there's a school district in my province that extensively uses Linux terminal servers. And what they've done, because they use lots of Flash, educational, and video on them, they have it so that the video and Flash run locally, loaded from the server, but it's processes locally so that you don't have the skipping and the bad video. I think they stream the audio, but the video is processed locally. I have no idea. I haven't investigated it for the Windows terminal server. But
Yeah, I think that's because, like what you were saying about the video and audio, they got to find a way to make this happen because 5 years ago nobody even didn't even think about it. But now everybody's got to do YouTube. It's like it's everywhere. We got to have it. So they're going to figure it out. I think it's just a matter of time. They'll just figure out how to do it. Yeah.
And not to distract from the Windows stuff, and, with whatever we push out will be Windows for our Windows users, our staff, and our faculty. But the LTSP 5, the current version of the Linux Terminal Server project, handles the video and audio issues pretty elegantly. I'm using that for some kiosk type stuff, and also where we're just doing email, or where we're just doing online dialogue stuff. But side benefit, it does deal with audio and video quite well. It's just limited to I can't throw a Linux desktop in front of my user. Much as I'd like to.
Well, we sit around in IT and talk about this stuff all the time. It's like, why don't we go out and run whatever, Ubuntu, Red Hat, let's pick your flavor and just try it and see if we can get it to go. But, the Microsoft stuff is just in front of everybody's face all the time. You get a new laptop or something, that's what you got, and that's what they're used to. They don't even know what it's called, but it's just a laptop. There it is. That's how it works now. But like, how can we get away with that? How can we say, put Linux in a lab? This is like, wow, how are we going to do it? Everybody's used to Word. We got to use Open Office now. How are we going to do that? How can we accomplish that and accommodate everybody, make everybody happy? But
And we're perfect.
what was that?
And we're perfect.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I'm impressed with the We're perfect 5 still. We want to not give it.
That's the DOS one, the DOS base.
Yeah.
We got a guy that does the same thing.
So every time I give him a new machine, I copy it up to the network drive, and then the image it and copy it back down. There you go, dude. We're perfect 5.0.
Yeah.
So before we run out of time, is there anyone that we've completely went by where you are? And maybe you thought, these people are really technical, I don't even want to ask this question.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
This doesn't really apply to the academic environment, but what about licensing fees? Like, for example, could you use thin clients as a way of avoiding paying for an XP license for every terminal?
Right.
Does that actually work, or is there another charge? I don't know if you would even know this because you probably have a site license for 2003 and all that.
Not really. I don't dwell on those issues, honestly.
For your terminal server come,
Go ahead.
well, the thin clients come with the Windows CE or whatever as far as the cows, you need the cows.
That's what I was going to say.
Right.
You got the same price that you would pay for, say, 2003 enterprise server to run your terminal service on. That's going to be the same for that, but you have to, in order to do the terminal server legally and have, say, 300 concurrent users, you need to have enough cows for 300 concurrent users. If you've got 30,000 users, but you only expect to have 25 on as your max at any given point in time, you don't have to buy thousands, you buy 25 or 30.
And CAL stands for
Client access license. And those, the academic price on that is not very much at all. I would guess like $20 per cow.
Yeah.
20, 30 bucks.
Hey, you can't totally get around pay. It's a pay way.
Well, you can't. But
Anything else before we encourage you to have a great day?
That's good, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I sent them a question asking them to give me views at like